What's up, everybody? Welcome to another podcast of Sakura. On today's episode, we are joined by Bryson Baugus, who's known for Belle Cornell in Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon. He also did Pegasus, Seiya in Saint Seiya. He was also in Food Wars, Missouri, and Darling in the Franxx. The list goes on, but you can find him this Saturday, August 15, at a digital event with Miss Midis Anime. Midis Anime, and you can find all the info at midisanime.com. Also, check out his Twitter at Baugus Bryson, and he is also a gamer. You can find him on Twitch /Baugus Bryson. Now, it's so dope that you stream, because I know myself and TSUNA, we are we love streaming, we love gaming, and it's so dope to see like these two worlds of anime and gaming combined. It's just though you've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Yes, recently that's what I've been playing. I just picked it up last week. I wish I was streaming as frequently as I used to. I started doing streaming about a year and a half ago. Before it was cool with the pandemic. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying that game particularly well as well. And yeah, another one I want to get is Fall Guys. Everyone's been streaming Fall Guys, and I have a lot of friends that already have it, and they're like, "You should get this, and we should play it." And I'm like, "Yes, I need to get that."
It's free.
Yeah.
Because Ghost.
I thought it was. Is it free? I thought it was $15
PS Plus members. No, for PS Plus
members.
Oh,
PS Plus members. Yeah, that's why.
Yes.
I don't got PS Plus. I mainly play PC stuff.
Okay.
So like in terms of online and everything, but yeah. Cool. I didn't know that. That's neat.
Yeah, it's free. I've been playing it. I only got one win so far, but it's pretty good game. It's pretty fun to just hang back, chill with your friends, and just laugh at each other, miss jumps and everything.
Yeah, it's like a online Wipeout. Ever see that show? Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love those shows. Just seeing the people just fall into the water was bouncing off the balls and everything.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was great.
Also, you're a singer, man.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to duet one of your songs, but I am horrible. I am horrible. So if you see a duet by someone named Deez is Live, just don't try not to cringe too hard.
Sounds good. I've been meaning to do another one of those. Twitch Sings is one of those things. So I am a singer. By trait, not really. I singing is more of a hobby for me for the most part, but I have done some things here and there, in terms of like professional singing, I guess. But I've never really had any sort of like formal training or anything like that. I just sort of did choir in high school and a little bit of it in college, and then moved on to mainly do theater and stuff. But yeah, I've been meaning to do more Twitch Sings stuff and figuring out how. Because the only times I have streamed, I've done it like solo or with somebody who was here with me, my fiance or something. But I do need to figure out how to like get parties working and stuff like that, so that more people can participate, and it'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the party thing is weird. I've done it a couple of times. I know some of my viewers want to see that, even though I'm freaking horrible. It doesn't work as you think. So, like, let's say if me and you were in a Twitch Sings party. We were in the same party, and you were saying part 1, and I was saying part 2. It wouldn't record both of us. Like, I would have to stay silent, or I could talk during it, but it would only record your part, and then I would have to wait for your part to be uploaded and rendered. Then I would have to grab it while in the same party with you, and then do my part. So it's kind of the same thing as duetting without being in a party.
Yeah. I think the parties, as far as I can tell, it seems like it's mainly like everybody gets to go up and do their own solo thing for the most part for the beginning, and then the duets are just sort of an extra thing. But yeah, that is kind of odd. I guess because lag, it's going to make it harder for timing audio to match up and stuff like that. But yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, my wife did it, and I think she tried to do it. And one of her friends, the audio was so lagged that it was like she was like far ahead. But I know on her headset she could hear it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird with the party thing. What games are you? What type of games are you into?
Usually single player games for the most part. I like, and it's weird. A lot of people seem to love super like open world games that take forever to finish, and then you like get immersed. And I understand the reasoning. Like you get immersed in this like world and stuff like that. I have such a huge backlog of games. I have like hundreds of games on Steam that I've never even touched because I used to work at a factory that paid really well, and that means whenever Steam sales came around, I would be like, "Oh, I'll try that game, and I'll try that game," and kind of stuff. So there's a ton of games that I own that I've never even touched. So I'm like, I gotta get through a bunch of these. So I tend to lean more towards some more of the more linear games, usually a little bit more action oriented. I've enjoyed a few RPGs here and there, and I've enjoyed a few JRPGs here and there, but they typically aren't my first go-to. So like I enjoy. It's funny because I'm about to mention some RPGs, but like I really like the Dark Souls games. Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Sekiro was a lot of fun, and those games are technically RPGs, I guess. Well, Sekiro is really more of just an action game in general. It's not really much of an RPG. But I like that they have like it's more of like an engaging, quick reaction time thing, and they're not particularly long if you know where you're going and what you're doing, and you're not dying every 5 seconds. But they're a reasonable amount of challenge. I also really enjoy like the Zelda games. I recently played Wind Waker for the first time on my stream a couple months ago. Well, I started it a couple months ago and finished it a few weeks ago. So those are always fun. The Zelda games with their puzzles and their adventures and whatnot. What else have I been playing? Well, Ghost of Tsushima you mentioned. I've been enjoying that mostly because like the settings and the combat. But it does tend to have a lot of the same trappings of most games that I tend not to stick around with too long, where it's like this huge open world where it's like you have an entire map that you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, okay, I can do whatever I want. I don't want to do any of it. I just want to progress
Just want to play the game.
the story. Yeah. But I mean, it's been a lot of fun and I've been enjoying it. Those just tend to not be the kinds that I stick around. Like I've never really played any of the Assassin's Creed games or anything like that because they've never really been the kind to intrigue me, I guess, is the best way to put it. But yeah, I'll play whatever. But I tend to stick to usually more like linear type games. When it comes to multiplayer games, I really enjoy shooters. Shooters are a lot of fun.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Call of Duty.
I actually don't own Call of Duty. I've been playing Warzone. But Call of Duty was never really a series I played a lot. I enjoyed Overwatch. I enjoy Apex Legends.
Nice.
I liked the BioShock series. I played all the BioShock games. What else? What other shooters? I really like the Half-Life games. I've recently, literally last night, I restarted Half-Life 1 just because I was like, I want to play an old game from like the 90s or something. So that one's a lot of fun. And yeah, those are some standout ones. I'm drawing a blank on like other shooters I've played, but yeah.
Nice. I can't play type of games you were talking about, like Bloodborne. I've played it, and I was there for like 3-4 hours, and somebody hops in the stream and was like, "Oh, you just started." What? I've been here for 4 hours, dude. They're like,
my fastest run through of Bloodborne, I beat it in about 4 or 5 hours.
Oh my god, I can't do it, dude. I was in like the first area. I didn't even get to like the first church area. I think I just like I can't explain it. I played it for so long ago, but I remember the guy was like, "Oh, you just started. All you did was get out of the church area," and I'm like, "Fuck, man, I can't." So I gave up on it. I can't do those type of hard games, but I did get into the Assassin's Creed before I started getting like I think the old ones like the Brotherhood and the Ezio stories.
I've heard those earlier ones are a lot better. In general, yeah, I've heard that.
And as for shooters, yeah, I think me and Suna both play Overwatch. Well, we used to play Overwatch. I think he was just finishing trying to get to Diamond on Tank, I believe, Suna.
Yeah, almost. No, I made really good progress considering like they separated all the tiers now, and there's DPS, and then there's tank, and then there's support. Tank was one of my lower ones, and I almost got at the Diamond. So yeah, but wow, it's nice to see that people still enjoy Overwatch. I still play it. These doesn't play it too much nowadays, but I still play it pretty often. Summer
I
games
have some.
right now, man.
Oh,
But-
sorry, I didn't mean to.
no, you're good. I was kind of done talking. I was just saying the summer games was going on, so it's like the Overwatch event. My bad. Go ahead, man.
No, you're good. You're good. I was gonna say I haven't played Overwatch a ton either in a while. I played it again. I think it was also about like 2 months ago, maybe, with a couple friends who still play it relatively regularly. And yeah, it's changed so much since I last like hardcore was playing. I think the last time I was like playing it regularly was maybe 2.5 years ago or so, and then just sort of trickled like maybe a game or two here or there over the past couple years. But yeah, I was surprised whenever I logged into the game and it was like, oh, quick play. Okay, now what do you want to? Do you want to be a tank? Do you want to be a tank? I was like, oh, I didn't realize that they had broken it down that much. But yeah, I remember back in the day, the last time I played it like seriously, it was everything was just a mishmash. You would just pick who you want, and you gotta rush to the character you want, otherwise you're not gonna get it.
It was so toxic.
Yeah.
It was toxic. I remember we used to go to quick play with like 5, 6 bastions, and just like,
Oh yeah.
ah.
Well, that was, I feel like, a really short-lived section of the game where it was like you can have multiple of the same hero or something. But I did play through that, and then I also played through where it did limit people to like only one hero per team of like the same instance of hero or something, and that made its own toxicity where it's like, you suck as Genji, give it back to me or something. Like I never really played Genji. I was Junkrat, Orisa, and who else did I play? Pharah. Those were the ones I mostly played back in the day. And then I don't really know much about heroes past. I think Doomfist came out was the last one, the last major release. Whenever like I kind of fell off of it playing seriously all the time, but yeah.
Yeah, I stuck mostly with tanks. I think I tried to play DPS when it first came out, but just everybody would just like load up on DPS. I was like, I'm not gonna do this. So let me learn something else. But I couldn't play Pharah. It's funny you
Oh,
mentioned Pharah. I get jealous every time I see somebody play Pharah and they're in the sky. Whenever I played her, I'm like on the ground. Like I can never figure out how to just stay in the sky, how to do that float mechanism and then the boost and everything.
Yeah. Here's a pro tip. Well, I'm not a pro. I honestly play most games casually. It's very rare I ever open up like a comp queue for any game ever. Overwatch was probably the first game I've ever played where I like even tried playing comp, and I play silver, and I never really placed super well. But Pharah, I think I got pretty decent at. But like the trick with her was that like instead of like holding, you would like jet up, and then instead of holding yourself up there, you would like tap the shift key or tap the space key so that you descend a little slower and a little bit more irregular, so they can't track you as easily. And what I would try to do is I would try to like zigzag while also doing that, and then just trying to aim and shoot where I need to go. But yeah, I always thought she was a lot of fun because I liked her rocket launcher. It kind of was like very Quake like. A friend of mine told me that like Pharah was basically you're just playing Quake with the rocket launcher essentially. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I loved her ability where you'd like shoot this burst of air or something on maps where you could just knock somebody off the map. It was a lot of fun. I would just like boot people off all the time.
I hated that, especially the pit.
I was the guy you
map
hated.
with the well, yeah, that, and then the Lucio's always bopping into the well too.
Yeah. Oh, Orisa. I would play Orisa a lot, and I would yoink people off the map. Just like she's got that orb that can like grab people and just wait, just grab them off. It's so much fun.
I love playing Orisa. As I said, I'm a tank main forever, and Orisa, I picked her up and I loved her. Her and Diva.
Diva. I never really got into Diva. She something about her, I just felt like I was dying way faster than I was outputting. I guess I was dying way too fast for what a tank is supposed to be dying. So I guess I just never like really learned how to maximize the use of like her defense matrix and all that stuff. And her guns always felt kind of weak to me. I don't know why.
You have to be up close. You have to play like a bully with her.
Yeah. It's just that one never became really my style. I really liked Orisa because you could just like sit down your shield and hang back and sort of mow down a few people. And I got a pretty decent amount of kills with her as well. I felt like she was a good, well-rounded tank as well. She could output a decent amount of damage, and her shield was pretty good. I thought her shield was really good, especially on payload naps. You just pop the shield on the payload,
Right on the
and
payload. Yep.
you just sit there, hovering between either the front or the back of the shield, depending on where the enemies are. It's great.
Okay. Let's get into anime, man. How did you start getting into voice acting, man? Because you have a really good list of voices that you bring to life.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I first got interested in voice acting when I was about 14. I had watched a handful of anime. I think I first got into like anime as a whole when I was like 12. So I'd only been watching anime and reading manga for about 2 years when I realized I was like, oh wait, voice acting is an actual thing. So I would like hop onto online communities and be like, how do I be a voice actor and blah blah blah, like every other teenager who finds out about it at the time. And I found like a few online communities where we would just do like amateur projects, and I would practice with that. Nothing that I would ever present now. Like a lot of it was terrible and awful, but like I did get some practice, and I got a lot of good feedback and met a lot of really, really cool people that even like are starting to work today. Like that's how I met Matt and Brittany, Matt Shipman, Brittany Latta, who's also some Funimation actors, Clifford Chapin, who you might know as Bakugo from like Funimation. I met them through those like online communities and stuff like that. And eventually I got into doing theater and stuff in high school and majoring in college. And from there I just sort of honed the performance aspect of it a little bit better, got better at characterization and stuff. And then I think doing the voiceover stuff helped me in the theater world in terms of like technical stuff, in terms of like vocal technique and projection and all that stuff. It helped a lot with enunciation and everything. And so getting into anime was sort of a roundabout extension of theater, because my first time being able to like actually go in for an anime session, it was after I had done an audition called the Alliance Auditions in Houston, where basically not every single one, but a majority of like the Houston theaters in the area, they go to like one place and you're one person and auditioning in front of like 40, 50 people that are all representative of different like theaters and stuff like that. And Sentai happened to be there one year. And after that audition, I got the call. They were like, hey, can you come in to do some extra voices? And I was like, yes. So that's sort of how that thing came to be. And then I guess I was good enough, I guess, at the time for them to keep calling me back and eventually giving me my first named role after a couple of months. And then after about a year and a half of doing just like bits and side characters, they gave me the audition for Belle from Danmachi. And that was the first character I had actually like auditioned for them for. Because usually with bits in Walla, they just sort of call you in and they're like, okay, you're this guy, go ahead. But Belle was my first like actual audition with them, and luckily I guess I nailed it, because I did the audition, and then on my drive home, I didn't even get home yet. They were like, hey, are you still driving home? And I was like, yeah, what's up? They go like, okay, don't get in a crash, but you got the guy. And I was like, yes. So I had to like call them back and schedule it whenever I got home and everything. But it was amazing. It was great. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. I guess they liked my work on that, so they were like, oh, he could probably do more leads and stuff. So they had me audition for Monster Musume, Haikyuu soon after that. And then just, yeah, from there, keep going.
That's crazy. Yeah, I love Denmachi. I can't wait for season 3. I know it's delayed with the whole COVID thing and everything. That's what I'm looking forward to. Haikyuu, I know the manga is ending. It should be ending, so I think it's entering its final arc, or it already ended. I know a couple big names from Shonen Jump ended, and I think that's one of them.
Yeah, Haikyuu, I've been hearing a lot about it. I haven't actually read the manga, but I feel like I really need to, because there's so much extra in there that's not in the anime yet, at least. And I still need to watch season 4 of the anime as well. We haven't worked on that yet, and I hope we get to eventually sometime soon. After all the pandemic and everything has died down, it'd probably be a lot easier. But I don't know how that works in terms of licensing and stuff. We're usually the last people to hear about that kind of thing. But yeah, Haikyuu's ended. I think I don't know if it's like ended yet, but I think it's ending soon. Not entirely sure, but that one was a lot of fun to work on.
How does that work for like English voice actors? Because I know, like let's say they'll announce the season 2, but they probably won't. Like, how do you know you'll be working for a season 2 for the English dub?
When they call me in and say, "Hey, can you come record?"
That's pretty much it. So even if
Yeah.
they announce it in for like Japan, you don't know if it will be.
Exactly. So like with the like you mentioned Danmachi season 3, I haven't heard anything about a dub for it yet. I hope we get to. But also at the same time, a lot of the times actors actors in general are usually the last people to find out about whether or not we're going to get to continue working on a show. But at the same time, we also sign contracts where it's like you can't talk about this until we announce it, sort of thing. So at the same time, like I'll like straight up I can tell you, like, I have not heard anything about a dub for season 3 or even like season 4 of Haikyuu or anything like that. Like that's just I'm being honest there. But like even if I did know, it would be kind of like a I can't really tell you kind of thing. So it's always a balancing act of the few times that you do know ahead of time, sort of thing, where it's just sort of people on Twitter like, when is this dub coming out? I'm like, it's coming soon. Just wait. I can't say it yet. But like, sort of thing, because then I'd get in trouble and then they won't use me anymore.
No, we need you. We need you back. We need you back.
Question: since we're on the topic of anime, so what do you think? As you said, you grew up watching a few here and there. What do you think is your favorite anime? Just out of curiosity.
My favorite one growing up was always Full Metal Alchemist, the original one, because the Brotherhood hadn't come out yet. I was still a youngin' whenever I discovered FMA, and Death Note was always a big one for me as well. Those are two of my like top ones, and I still hold them up there. I think that they're both really good shows, just like outside of anime in general. Like I know a lot of friends of mine who honestly don't even really like anime at all, but like I'd show them FMA, or I'd show them Death Note Death Note especially. I don't know why, but just something about Death Note, like it really appeals to like just anybody. Like you don't even have to be a fan of anime to enjoy that show, I think.
It's really good, I think.
Yeah.
Idiot. Yeah.
But those are the two that really stuck with me when I was a kid. I also enjoyed what was a big one? I watched Ouran when that one was like at the height of its popularity. I enjoyed it. I would have to rewatch it again to see if I still enjoyed it as much as I did in the past. But like I really enjoyed that at the time. I enjoyed the original Negima, the first season of Negima. That one was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Got my water. Gotta hydrate.
Nah, stay hydrated, man. Yeah, no, like I've actually never seen the original FMA. A lot of times when people like tell me like to watch FMA, or like they'll tell me about FMA, they always talk about Brotherhood. They never say the original one, because apparently the original one actually went on a different course from like the manga or something, whereas Brotherhood corrected all of that and like they went like with in line with the manga. So that's why everybody tells me to just watch FMAB, or like when they mention FMA, they'll be like, B. It's nice to see that someone actually enjoys the original, because it's the same thing for Hunter.
I enjoy the original. Oh, sorry, what was you said?
But it's like the same thing with Hunter x Hunter, where it's like they had the original, the 1998 one, and then there's the newer one, which is the 2011 one, where it's like it's the same thing. So, but yeah, the same thing happens for Hunter x Hunter, where they tell me to watch Hunter x Hunter, the newest one, which is versus the old one, because the newer ones are usually more up to date, and then the animation is better and stuff. So, sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of the case with Brotherhood. I think I actually still haven't even finished Brotherhood. I got really late into it, but when I was watching it, it was before Netflix even had all of the episodes. It like got up to a really late point in the show, and then just like the last, I think 13 episodes of the show just weren't there for whatever reason, which kind of sucked at the time, because I still to this day haven't been able to finish it. But like I will say that like Brotherhood is the better show, and it's got a lot like better things about it. And even like writing wise, there were some things about the old show that just sort of was like weird and odd. And I can see why like fans of the manga would like not really be a big fan of that show as well. and people who like came to Brotherhood first would go back and watch the old one and be like, that's weird. Why'd they do that? That's kind of dumb, kind of thing. But it's just like that was the version that was out whenever I first found out about it, and Brotherhood came later. And I just got so attached to the old show so much. And like it definitely does a ton of stuff different from the manga and Brotherhood and stuff like that. Some of it for the worse. Some of it I think handled a little bit better in terms of like the earlier stuff. Because one of the things that I've heard suggested is watch like the original series for specific episodes, because they tend to pace it better in some ways, the earlier sections. Because when Brotherhood first came out, I guess they were trying to rush to the new stuff because they didn't want people to think, oh, this is just retelling the same old story from the old show. So it like sort of rushed through a lot of really impactful moments. I feel like, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's like the whole Nina arc, which was like one episode in Brotherhood, and they just sort of rushed through it really fast. Whereas it was like a 3 or 4 episode buildup in the original show, and I felt like that was handled a lot better in the old show. But I can see the reasoning why they would want to like get past the stuff that presumably most people had already seen at that point whenever it was at the height of its popularity, so that they can like say like, no, this is a new thing, we're going a different direction with this, because they didn't want it to seem like they're just retelling the same stuff again. But yeah, I think there are pros and cons to both series. Yeah.
No, well, okay. No, I've actually never seen the original, so I didn't know it was actually 3 episodes long. But I guess knowing that, wow, like, usually I tend to listen to people that are more like aware of like, hey, you know, this stuff, you might want to not go to the original, despite it being like the OG one, because it's not very in line with the manga. And usually when I watch anime, I try to make it go as close to the manga as possible, to either for me not to have to read it, or you know, when I do read it, it'll match up with what I was watching, and I'll be like, okay, so this would happen in the anime. Oh, that's sick. But I didn't actually know that. That's actually really interesting.
And not to get into spoilers for like this super old show, but I remember I had friends that really liked the Death Note manga that hated the anime because of the changes in it. And I remember saying like, I read the manga and I watched the anime, and I don't even remember any differences between the two, except like some minor stuff here and there that like didn't really affect. And like they changed the ending. Well, it's not even that change. They just changed how it ends. But like I don't remember it being so different that like anybody would like complain about it. But I remember having friends that were like, no, they changed too much stuff, and I hate the show. I just want to read the manga. And I was like, okay, that's your thing.
It's not like they did the movie thing. The movie thing was just horrible. Have you seen it?
Oh my god.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh, the live action Death Note? Oh. Yeah, where they changed everything. It was crazy.
Oh no.
I remember people loved that movie, and I remember No,
I was saying it could have been good if they would just change the names.
Yeah.
Like say it's a different book in a different timeline.
Just don't about, like the new movie.
Yeah, the one that Netflix did with Mia Sutton and Light Turner.
Turner. Yeah. No, yeah. So I was thinking of like the original Japanese movies where they also changed a bunch of story beats, but like those were like passable. I thought they were all right. They weren't egregiously insulting or anything like that. That movie, I have a friend, or acquaintance rather, we haven't like talked a ton, but we've interacted a lot on Twitter, where he insists that like Death Note the movie like is actually good because it's a comedy. Like if you go into it like looking at it as a comedy, it's like genius. But no, I remember when that movie came out, I watched it twice. I watched it by myself, and then I watched it to show it to a friend of mine who really loved the anime, because I was like, you got to see how bad this is. First of all, Willem Dafoe, perfect casting. That's like one of the best things about the movie, is that they got the perfect Ryuk, and it was wasted. But like you said, they could have just made it. They could have just taken the premise and made an entirely different story with it, because the original story, it's like there's so many layers to it, and it's like so long. It's like you can't really condense that into a 2-hour runtime or something. So I agree with you. I feel like they should have just taken the premise of the Death Note and like given it an entirely different setting, using none of the original characters, maybe Ryuk, so it has that sort of connection to the old show, and just have Ryuk like have it to where he dropped it in a different place and completely different events show up. I think that would have worked 100 times better than just trying to readapt the same old story. I think it would have led to more creative license for the production team and the director to do what they want and run with it, as opposed to feeling like they have to be tied to like this old story. Yeah, exactly. I think that would have come off a lot better if they had just run with that idea with it. But yeah, that's what happens.
I just feel like they changed it a little too much. They made Light kind of a simp, you know, like, and I didn't like that. And then on top of that, like the thing
in the anime and the manga, he couldn't care less about Misa. Like,
yeah, he didn't care.
He's like the worst person ever to her in the show and in the manga, but like in the movie, they're like, oh, he actually loves her, and he's like into her, and I was like, no, that's wrong.
What is it like in the first 5 minutes of the movie? He's going to her and say, "You know how that guy died? I got this book." It's like he's supposed to be like super smart. I did this. Look at this book. There's all the evidence.
To be fair, though, that's exactly what an American high school student would do if they were in his situation. Because like I guess it's just like a cultural thing. Whereas like the director probably was like, oh, so he's this super smart, top of his class guy in Japan, where I guess over in Japan that's more of like a status symbol. Like, you're the smartest guy in class, you're super cool. Whereas in America, like, you're smart, what a nerd, you're dumb and lame. So like they made him like this bullied, tortured kid, as opposed to like this smart, like not smart, but like because I guess technically he was supposed to be smart, but they made him more of like a tortured individual, as opposed to like everyone I remember in this show, everyone was like, oh, Light, you want to hang out after? And he's like, no, I'm too busy. Like, he was the cool guy that everyone wanted to hang out with, but he was just like, nah,
He didn't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the only live adaptation I liked was the Bleach one. That was really good.
I don't think I've seen that one. I actually never really watched Bleach that much. My fiance watched it a ton when she was younger, but I didn't have cable growing up, so a lot of the Toonami shows I tended to miss out on, including stuff like Naruto. I only caught like bits and pieces of it, what I could, from like episodes I would catch whenever I was at like my cousin's house when they had cable, or we would buy like the video games, but the video games just had like sort of like really shortened, abridged versions of the story and stuff like that. At least the ones that were out at the time, because I remember when we were playing the Naruto games, it was Clash of Ninja 2 was the newest one, and that was like on the GameCube and stuff. And I think Ultimate Ninja was sort of like the side project at the time, and that eventually became like the main series.
The main Ninja Storms and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, those games are a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, the Naruto like GameCube games are some of my highlights of my childhood. Just like inviting a friend over, and then me and my brother would like split screen, and then we'd have like Orochimaru as a computer. We just jump him or something. Those were
That's great.
that was fun. But real quickly, going back to the thing, I think the reason I kind of dislike the Death Note live action is because they took out one of my favorite features. Like one of the things that made it so good for me was like the psychological battle between L and Light. You know, like I always liked that. Like they like knew he was the killer, but he couldn't confirm it, but they kind of just knew, you know, and they kind of were like going back and forth without really like saying like, hey, you know, I know you're Light, but I know you're Kira, but like if but I, you know, I can't really prove it, but you know, if you're Kira, you'll show me right now, you know. And it's like, damn, you know, like that's something I always liked, that they were so like the little battle they had, where I felt like it was kind of non-existent in the Death Note movie, and then obviously the whole thing with Light. But I think that's why I could say I didn't really enjoy it that much. I didn't really care that they made like small changes. They could have kept them a simp for all I care, as long as they had that like psychological battle. I would have been okay with it. I would have been okay with it, but they really took that out, at least from what I remember. But yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple years since I watched it. I did recently see a video, and I can't on YouTube, and I can't remember who the YouTuber was that did it, but he did like an analysis of the tennis scene in the anime, and like, and it sort of highlights what the show is all about, like with that sort of mental battle where he goes super intense into his mind about like, if I win, does that mean he'll think even more that I'm Kira, or because like I want to win, or if I let him win, like it's sort of like one of those. It just reminds me of this scene from Yu-Gi-Oh, where Joey's like, well, what if he knows that I know that he knows that I know that this kind of thing, and it's a really like basic way of looking at it, but it's really funny, and I love how the video breaks down. I can't remember what the title of the video was, but if you look up like Death Note tennis scene something, you might be able to find it somewhere. Tennis scene analysis, because it really breaks down just sort of like what made that show so great, because it's like it presents everything as like a stream of consciousness too, like how an actual person in that situation might think. Like sometimes you worry about something so hard, but it leads to a dead end because it's just like, yeah, you overthought that thing, where it in the end it ultimately doesn't matter, but you don't know what small detail could matter, kind of thing. But yeah, sorry to tangent that much about that, but it was great.
No, I can agree with that. I kind of like that too. I do briefly remember that tennis scene as well, because it's been so long since I watched Death Note. It's like one of my first animes, and I still really liked it.
Mhm.
Even to this day, I still hold it like maybe top 10, because just how the psychological battle and just everything about it was like, as a new anime fan, being like presented to one of the first animes I watched being that, I didn't know. I always thought it was like, I was always into like those really cool like main character animes with like Naruto, like Bleach, and like those really cool like main characters, and then like getting put into one that's not really. I mean, that's the supernatural ability of the Death Note, but it's still like your average high school student going through this like self-righteous journey to correct the world. That was something new to me, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And yeah, just getting put on a show like that when I was younger was just something that I'll always like hold. I can't really explain it. I'll hold it high up there, right?
Oh yeah,
But
it was the same for me. I think I was like 13, 14 when I was watching it. It was great.
thinking back at it, I don't think I've ever came across like an anime. I'm not too crazy like on watching a lot of anime. I watch them occasionally. I don't think I've ever found something that psychological, and for that reason, I think I'll always hold it up there, like at a high regard. So
I think that was the only one that I liked that was psychological. Since then, I've watched a couple. There was one called Pet that I couldn't get into. I think I stopped after like the first 2 episodes. Some people were
Pet?
like mind powers. Pet, yeah.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Super weird. Then there's another one. I forget the name, but it's all about So Japan, this is like a separate island, and they're gonna have like an election, and they're gonna use that island as a separate nation from Japan, and they're gonna use that as like a testing area to test new laws. So one the person that got elected wants to have a new law where it's legal to commit suicide. And all of a sudden the world is gravitating towards that idea, and people like, no, this is a bad idea, you can't make suicide legal. And then they're trying to stop the election. You got secret agents trying to stop it, and it's a whole psychological battle. And then you see slowly that one idea that started in Japan, boom, now it is like, you know what, one of our cities is gonna let suicide legal, and the United States is fighting it. And then all of a sudden, one state in the United States wants to make suicide legal, and it's spreading all over the world. And you see people trying to stop it. It is a cool concept, and it was a good anime. But like I said, I think Death Note was the only one psychologically that got me loving it.
Like hooked on it, yeah.
Hooked on it, yeah.
Hooked on it like phonics.
Ever since then, it's just been like shonen, like My Hero or like Naruto. And then, of course, harem. And then we get into the is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon type stuff in High School DxD?
Yeah, those are funny.
Yeah, it's always an awkward, shy character that doesn't know how to get a girl.
Yeah.
Do you draw inspiration from like your own life going into that?
Oh, totally not. I had one girlfriend for a month in high school, and then I didn't have a girlfriend until college, and now I'm still with her. So,
okay.
But those are a lot of fun. I definitely, you know what? Actually, I guess kind of. I guess unintentionally kind of draw inspiration, at least in terms of for Bell, where he's just like this sort of oblivious guy. Because I do remember going back to a friend of mine who like graduated after me, He was like a year behind me, and I would like hang out with him still, and he would like tell me that like, oh, this girl actually like had a crush on you, and I was like, what? I had no idea. But like, yeah, I was like, oh well. Sorry, sorry. I had a common color commentary going on. My fiance's over there just like.
Out of animes that you've done, what was your favorite experience? Like which series? Because I know we spoke to another voice actress, and she was like, yeah, I love doing this because this is where I met most of my friends that I still communicate with to today.
So actually, I do have a couple of favorite moments. Like one of my favorite moments was when I first went in for Danmachi, and I was like, this is the like first time I'm going in for like a major character in a show, and we were actually going to be in the booth for like an extended period of time as opposed to like maybe an hour or so. So that was exciting and nervous, but it was like also a really great learning experience because I was learning how to get through things in an efficient way. With how they run things, and I felt pretty good about like how I was getting through things. Excuse me. Another favorite moment was a favorite I guess moment in the career in general was going up to do Darling in the Franxx at Frank's at Funimation with the director was my friend Clifford Chapin, who had been trying to, I guess he had been trying to get me up there for some stuff in the past because he had sent me auditions and stuff prior to this, but this was the first time where he was like, you know, I'm going to use him in this. Like he straight up was like, I'm going to cast him as this character, and that was Mitsuru in Darling in the Franxx, and it was great because that was the first time I got to like work with him on something outside of just like interacting as buds and stuff like that from the past. So that was a really great time, and it was also my first time doing something up at Funimation. So I guess both of these are like instances of like first time doing something majorly different, and it was great to just work with them. And I also, while I was up there, I would always hang out with Brittany and Matt, Brittany and Lada and Matt Shibin, and we hang out all the time. We do those Jackbox streams every Tuesday now, and we still hang out all the time chatting, and it's been a great experience getting to work on that show and still keeping those connections, and just the fallout of that. Yeah. I always like never know how to end a thought, so I just sort of like end yeah there and yeah there that.
It is like when you're in school and it's just you just put comma instead of period and you just continue comma.
Yeah, no, yeah. And that's the end of the point.
So I see on your Twitter, man, we got to talk about this because over here at the Sakura podcast, we also like to talk about stuff affecting us, man. You're heavy into the Black Lives Matter movement, and we've interviewed a couple people who are also, you know, pro Black Lives Matter and everything. What started you getting into it? I know with me, my personal experience is like I'm not black, but I have been put in situations with the police that, you know, I've got called the hard R word, the hard NER word, and I've been in that situation that I didn't know how to deal with it, or even today, if I would have dealt with it a certain way, it probably would have ended worse. So that's why I'm with it and everything. But how about you? What are your experiences with it?
So I came into it in sort of a roundabout way. Just so I grew up in a really conservative area, around very like conservative family and stuff like that, and they're still very conservative and everything like that. But I sort of, once I sort of moved out on my own and was starting to choosing who I listen to a little bit more, I found out that I started to realize that like a lot of my experiences with like, because I had been pulled over for like speeding or something like that, and it's usually in my experience it's never a big deal. It's just sort of like, hey, you were going this and yeah, just give me your ID and stuff like that, and then you're on your way. Sometimes I get a warning, sometimes I get a ticket, and it sucks. Like, that sucks. But like, that's the worst it's ever been for me. And like, I would like hear these stories about people who were like pulled over because a taillight was out, and that ended up in them getting shot like it just like it escalates so fast, and it's like it sort of like opened my eyes to like maybe my lived experience isn't like it's not the end all. Like I there's so much experiences out there from people that don't look like me or don't sound like me or anything like that, who just by virtue of that alone like gets treated in such a different way, and whether or not it's even a conscious effort on the part of the aggressor or something like that. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I hate black people actively and stuff like there's always going to be like some sort of internal bias in the back of the brain that like affects how you handle people. And I just wish that like more people would realize that and realize that when people say Black Lives Matter, they're not saying like they matter more than other people. It's just that like the message of all lives matter is like, it's not even really a message. It's just sort of a response like, well, yeah, of course everybody matters. But like at the same time, it's just sort of a cop-out kind of thing, I think. And people don't realize that it's what we're trying to say is like, yes, every life should matter, but right now these lives are being treated as if they don't, kind of thing. I'm not the most articulate about this kind of stuff. I'm trying to figure out the best way to word it, but that's sort of the way that I've come to understand it. It's just that like people in the United States get treated differently because of how they look or sound or anything like that, and it's very apparent. Like if you just look at anything in the media and stuff like that, and I feel like there's just so many people that like just want to bury their head in the sand and be like, you just gotta be nice and follow everything they tell you and stuff like that. And it's like there's so many videos of people, of like non-black people treating officers with like disrespect and shouting at them, and like they walk off scot-free. Whereas like I've seen a video where a guy was paralyzed in his car and he was trying to tell them that the entire time, and the guy, the officer just drags him out of the car, and he ends up on the floor, and like he's raising his hands, he's showing his hands like to the best of his physical ability. He was following orders, and it's still escalated to the point where this man is just like injured and he's on the ground. Like it's crazy like how obtuse some people are when they look at that and they're like, well, maybe he should have done this. And it's like, no, that's not okay. Yeah. Like I yeah.
I feel you. And I think the best way to kind of articulate it is when people say what kind of to what you were saying is it's not that all lives like other lives don't matter when people say Black Lives Matter. It's because why focus on other people when there's one that's currently like wounded? You know what I mean? Like you have a bunch of people in an infirmary and there's one who needs to go to the emergency room, you know, because that one's got stab wounds. The other people are just like, you know, common sickness, like a cold or something, you know. Like that's the best way I would put it, is like why we're trying to focus on the person that's bleeding out, you know, person that could die. That doesn't mean the other people that are sick don't matter. It's just that there's one that really needs attention at the moment, you know.
I'm over here with my sniffles. I can't believe you treated that man who's bleeding out before me. How could you? This is equality. This is America. Equality.
Yeah. And also, one of the ones that the All Lives Matter one kind of upsets me because it does undermine the whole thing of Black Lives Matter. But the one that gets to me a little bit more is the Blue Lives Matter one I've been seeing around. I'm just like, it's such a stupid, because being a cop is a job. You're not born a cop. And I guess some people just don't understand that. So I've seen it trending a couple times on Twitter, and I was just like, oh my god, the stupidity of some people.
Because like you can, and I do have friends that are cops and stuff like that, and I don't try and say like all caps. I don't try and say that all cops are bad people or anything like that, because I know that there are people that there are people that try to go in and they're trying to do the best they can to do what they can within the system that they're given. It's just that like the culture of cops as a whole has just regressed into this sort of tribalism where it's like cops protect cops regardless of like any wrongdoing or anything like that. So that like and there are stories of people, of cops trying to report on bad behavior, and the person that enacted that bad behavior gets either a slap on the wrist or they get reassigned to another district or something. And in worst cases, the people reporting the bad behavior end up getting fired or also reassigned to a place where they basically get a demotion or a pay cut in some way. Like, it's not overt. They're like, haha, don't mess with us. We're gonna cut your pay or something like that. It's just sort of like these subtle changes and stuff that just it sort of like discourages reporting on bad behavior. And that's I feel like what people are trying to call out right now. It's like, it's not that there aren't people that want cops to do better within the system. It's just that, like, the system itself and the culture surrounding it discourages it. It actively discourages reporting bad behavior. It actively discourages stepping in when you see bad behavior enacted. So like it's just really bad all around. And I do know that there are instances of cops just like going into a store in their uniform or walking around the street in their uniform, and they get like assaulted because they see their uniform. And it's like that sucks as well. But at the same time, if you were walking around in your street clothes or something like that, you probably wouldn't have had that interaction. Like, nobody would know that you were a cop as long as you weren't in your uniform. And not to say that like that's a cop out, but at the same time, Black people don't have that. Like, they are what they look how they look, no matter where they go. They can't just take it off like a uniform. It's just that follows them everywhere. And yeah, I don't know how best to put it aside from that, but that's kind of how I've come to explain that, I guess. Yeah,
and I can agree with you on that. No, definitely.
It's also a culture thing too, or like, I don't know, bad training too. I know my brother's friend, he's a cop, and I think one time we sat for dinner, he was like, dude, the way they train us is crazy. So we'll come out of school and they'll have us with a veteran and they'll drive us around a bad neighborhood. And every day they'll be like, see that neighborhood right there? Whew, you don't want to be there. That's a bad neighborhood. Next day, same thing. See that neighborhood right there? You don't want to be there. That's a bad neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 you're assigned to that neighborhood. So the cop goes into it like, fuck. All I know is that this neighborhood and these people in this area is bad. So, yeah. It's,
based on nothing, like based on no experience of being in that neighborhood or anything like that. Like, just you're pre-biased to assume the worst of the people in that neighborhood because of what your cohorts and colleagues have told you, and that just perpetuates, like, it just perpetuates it. It's sort of it. Yeah, that's probably just the best way to put it. It just perpetuates it. It's, yeah.
Deez, this actually reminds me. I actually took law enforcement in like a law enforcement class in high school. Like my, I want to say junior or senior year. I can't remember exactly, but the way they actually taught us. Well, they showed us videos of people. Apparently, that's part of the cop training. They show you video of the worst that could happen if you're not always like on your guard. And I guess in a sense, they're trying to train you to always fear for the worst, or to always be in fear of your own life when dealing with anything. And I think that actually could be one of the causes, because they showed us a video of them opening a jail cell to move a prisoner, right? And that prisoner somehow managed to get a hold of like a spoon or something, and like he sharpened it and he stabbed some dude right in the eye that came to open the door. Like, the moment the door opened, he just got stabbed. And I guess that's what one of the training is. They show you the worst stuff that could happen, like, you know, pulling up to give someone a driving ticket because they were speeding or something, and then they just shoot you and they run off, you know, like, and they show that. And that's why I feel like cops are kind of conditioned to be like, oh, you know, I could die here at any moment. Yeah, assume the worst. Also, back to the whole training thing, which is something I was going to add a second ago, was that I believe that the time to become a cop is a lot shorter than the time to become a lawyer, which I believe like training for a cop is anywhere between like 1 to 3 months. I could be wrong. And then the time to become like a lawyer is like, it takes like years. Like, it could take like 3 to 4 years, you know? And it's like,
they're paid to enforce laws that they're not fully educated on.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll just, we think we're right, so we'll just arrest them and have the court figure it out later. And that's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's something that I read on Twitter, and I'm like, this makes sense because I didn't know how long it took for a cop to become a cop, but I guess this kind of makes sense. You have less training to enforce the law and become a cop, like get a profession out of it. Than when you become someone who that fights for either the wrong or the right side of the law when you become a lawyer, and that takes even longer to become someone who enforces it with like actual like guns and like going around patrolling and stuff. And that actually like made me think about it. Like that's kind of messed up. Like, why does it take longer to become someone who's physically out there that has the authority? Like, regardless of what you think, regardless of if a cop decides to abuse their power, the fact is that when they're wearing that uniform, they have the ability to abuse that power. They always have that underlying like power and like that badge that always shows like, hey,
Mhm.
can't really do anything wrong because I have the power here. Whether they choose to abuse that power or not, good cop or bad cop, the fact is that it's there, and
Yeah.
the fact that it takes a lot less time to become a cop than it does a lawyer is kind of a little backwards to me. So
Mhm.
it does really have to do with the training. Now thinking about it.
It's just the whole system needs to be revamped, I feel, entirely, and like and also it's cops are I said that weird. Cops are like the go-to for so many things that they shouldn't be the go-to for. Like they're not counselors. They're not like if there's a domestic dispute that's non-violent, like a non-violent domestic dispute, some people will call the cops to like intervene and like blah, blah, and it's like that's not what they're there. Like that's not what they should be there for. Um, Arresting a homeless person, putting them in jail isn't going to fix the fact that isn't going to help that it's not going to help that homeless person. It's not going to help anybody just putting them in a jail cell. Like it's there's so many just things that cops are used for that they shouldn't be. It's ridiculous. And that's part of like what people are talking about when they talk about like the whole defunding the police. People think that like defund the police means like don't give any money to the police. They should just be abolished entirely. And there are some people that do believe that like police should be abolished full stop. I'm not entirely sure if I agree with that like entirely. I think it just should be I just think it should be reassessed and repurposed and restructured entirely. So like take the money that like they don't need military grade weaponry. Like no police force needs that. You can repurpose that money into like social outreach or community stuff. Like spend more on community outreach and public housing or something like that for the homeless that are just being put in jail cells every now and then because like, oh, you're not allowed to sleep under this bridge. This bridge doesn't allow for this. Come with me, sir. Sort of thing. It's I'm not the smartest person in terms of like where I think I'm not the most informed on where the best place to put that money is, but I do know that like if you find resources and it's worked in other towns where they take some of that money and they repurpose it in community efforts and community outreach and stuff like that, and it ends up working out better because a lot of police enforcement is just sort of like a putting a Band-Aid on like a terrible wound. You're treating symptoms, but you're not treating the cause. Like a lot of the cause of crime is like being in a bad social situation. Like you don't have money or you don't have friends or anything like that. It tends to psychologically turn you towards sort of that kind of criminal activity and stuff like that. And a lot of the times if people had sort of more of an access to education or an access to community resources or job training or the ability to get jobs and stuff, investing in those types of things would reduce the amount of people that feel that they need to turn to that sort of thing, I feel. But yeah, I'm harping on a lot of stuff that like I'm not the best at explaining and stuff like that. There's definitely a lot of people that are a lot better at explaining this stuff to me. A friend of mine, Zeno Robinson, he's done a great job of spreading information and getting as much information as he can out about this kind of stuff. So I would definitely recommend listening to him. about this kind of stuff and looking into more informed resources. I'm just some straight white guy who, like I said, my lived experience has been not even like it's not even been the worst. Like I've had struggles, but none of my struggles has ever had to been. None of my struggles have ever been rooted in the way I look or the way I sound or anything like that. It's never harmed me in any way. So I've always pushed for listening to people who do have those lived experiences more so than just me. Like I'm just some guy who happens to want to push voices that are saying how they feel and what their experiences are and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
All right. So what's next for you? I know you're still waiting for announcements and seeing if you're gonna do season 3 and some other stuff. But what are you working on now that you can tell us?
Pet Girl Sakura So just came out. I think I don't know if it's release yet. I need to look at the release date, but I know that we announced that a couple weeks ago. I play like a minor like appearance. His name's Iori, and he's got a nice funny scene in the final episode. It's a lot of fun. That show's pretty fun. I've watched that one, and it's enjoyable. I think I'd recommend it. What else have they been recently announced? Senryu Girl. I did some extra voices in that and stuff like that. I do have a couple of like new characters coming out that I can't talk about just yet. Okay. But yeah, definitely be on the lookout for those. Streaming is sort of like the main thing. I've been doing public facing, and I haven't been doing it as much as I would like to. I'd like to get into doing it a lot more like I used to. But yeah, that's typically the main things going on for me right now. Just work and streaming every now and then.
Definitely. I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for a duet.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout. And if you ever want to party, man, definitely let me know, man. We could definitely do it together. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. We spoke about anime. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. And before we start to wrap things up, any tips for people out there wanting to get into voice acting?
Yes, the great question. No, I'm joking. I would highly recommend. I would highly recommend going to iwannabeavoiceactor.com. It's a website by D. Bradley Baker, and it's got tons of information, tons of articles written by him about how to get into voiceover and stuff like that. I also recommend the Voice Acting Club. It's a forum, but it's also a Discord community as well. Run by Kira Buckland. She played 2B in Nier Automata, and she's in JoJo and a bunch of other stuff. She's an acquaintance of mine. We've met at a couple conventions, and she's really cool. And that community was actually one of the early online communities that I started out with, where they're just really supportive, and they're open to newcomers, and they have plenty of projects that are there for practicing on like amateur projects, but they also have sometimes they'll have indie projects that are paid, looking for professional talent as well. So it's always a good back pocket thing to just sort of have around, sort of thing. Take acting classes, because voice acting is more about the acting than it is about the voices you can do. I am helping somebody develop their demo right now, and I keep needing to remind them, like, hey, doing a bunch of voices is great, but if they're just looking to see if you can perform the roles and stuff like that, sort of thing. And so yeah, getting performance focused is a lot more important than trying to stretch your range in ways that might even hurt you. Like if you've got a naturally higher voice like mine, don't be trying to like stretch your voice way too low where it's gonna really hurt yourself. So yeah, those are a handful of tips, I guess, to look at.
Sounds good. Funny you mentioned JoJo. I know we spoke about JoJo's before on this podcast. SAKURA has said that he cannot get into JoJo's because of the fan base.
No, it's shut me.
SAKURA, I gotta let you know.
What?
I'm officially part of the fan base. I just started JoJo's.
He's not gonna be your friend anymore.
Oh, damn, bro. No, but that's not. No, these. Hold on. I didn't say I wouldn't be like they. I just said that the fan base makes me not want to watch it. But eventually, I'm gonna get around to it because I heard that it's really good.
It's
but
good.
I'm not gonna lie. The fan base makes me question sometimes whether I want to start watching it. That's it. I don't have nothing against them.
I need to get back into watching it. I started it, but I never like continued with it. I really like the art style and like how crazy it is and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the art style is crazy. I didn't want to get into it first, like what Suna said. The fan base is crazy. Me and him come from playing Jump Force or like anime games. Like I just started playing Ultimate Storm 4. A lot of people were like, oh, watch JoJo's, and I had this viewer who always want me to watch JoJo's. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna watch it because you keep trying to shove it down my throat, and I didn't like the posing and everything. But now that I'm watching it, like it's so good. Like I don't mind the posing. The posing is just funny to me. I would just go up to my wife and be like, what's for breakfast?
That's funny.
Before we end this, right? I have a question for Bryson here, Mr. Bryson, right? So I think everybody that watches anime has one. So I need to ask you, for all the people out there listening, for all the boys, who in anime is your waifu, man?
I always get this question, and I actually don't know how to answer it because I don't really feel like I do have one. Dang.
Yeah.
My waifu is
Is your wife still back there going like this?
I think she went to the other room. My waifu is Prince from Run with the Wind. It's a guy.
Okay.
Quickly fine.
Nah.
Go on.
My husbando.
Suna likes Brock from Pokemon.
Hey, yo,
so
from Pokemon. Yo, no, that's what you want to have around, man. He's gonna take care of all your kids, bro. Hey, yo, I love Brock. I'll turn a frying pan into a drying pan.
Drying pan, yes.
Bro, I love Brock. Oh shoot.
Yes. I never know how to answer that question. Because I know when I was a kid, I really when I was like a young kid watching Teen Titans, I liked Raven. She was cool.
Oh, the
Raven?
dark, mysterious types.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, man. No, I just thought a question that like I think we ask everybody, don't we, Deez? Everyone that comes on here, we usually ask that.
Yeah, we
Like,
usually
yeah.
ask, like,
No, I get you. It's a intriguing question, and I'm sure you get a lot of intriguing answers. Yeah.
basic ones so far. We got a lot of Hinatas, except for one. We got like a couple dudes from like yaoi animes, on our most recent. So yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it, man.
All right.
Bryson, thank you for your time. This is truly dope experience to have you on the show on Sakura, man. Everybody out there, his links, everything will be in the show notes below. You can catch him on Twitch, and his Twitter is the same thing. Baugus Bryson. Follow it. Adam, check him out. He's dope. Plays video games. He's a gamer, and he's a voice actor. You know?
I'm a gamer. I'm a voice actor.
And a singer.
That's me.
Best three in one package. There you go, man. You can't find anything better.
And also, like I said before, August 15th, Midis Anime. He's doing a digital event. You can find all the information linked below. I will have midisanime.com down below. Make sure you check it out. I'll be there. And yeah, just like me and Suna, our links and everything will be below. I hope everybody has a blessed day, man. Suna, would you like to take us out?
Well, it's been a great episode, man. Mr. Bryson here gave us a good insight on what it's like to be a voice actor and a little bit of like I want to say his perspective on BLM and everything that's going on, which is a pretty, regardless of whether you're not the most informed or the best informed at it, you still have a very good take on it. And I appreciate that you somehow, or not somehow, but like you managed to understand how messed up and just like all the systematic racism and everything that's been going on, and to know that you stand on the right side of it as opposed to the ignorant side that just believes one thing. So
and I try to keep as informed as I can. I'm just not the best at explaining it, I guess, because I'm not a very articulate person.
I feel you.
Yeah.
So am I. But hey, like I said, you're still a really good guy, and I appreciate you being out here, man.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me, guys, so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, man. Definitely gotta have you back. And like I said, if you ever want a game together, I know I'm on PC and PS4. Definitely, I'll be in your DMs. You have my info. With that said, everybody, peace out.
Peace.